Bum, 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 bum. Hey, great to see you tonight. Hey, Dr. Otto Jenke here for Empire Longevity Insiders Longevity Live. It's been a while. I know it's been a while. Where you been? Where I been? Where's everybody been? I've been on the road with the basketball team for last number of months. Last what? 3 months? 3 months ish. And so I've been doing that. I'm the scorekeeper for a local high school basketball team for the Cortland High School Purple Tigers basketball team. I'm the scorekeeper of all things. I'm actually pretty good at it. I never thought I'd be, because it's really a very analytical thing when it comes to numbers and stuff. And I can put a person in synchronous orbit with the Earth mathematically, but if I sold you a candy bar for $1, I have no idea what to do with the dollar. So this is February 22nd. And we're going to answer some of the concerns people have about longevity. Some of the questions I hear you asking me, you've sent me the questions, so I'm going to answer the questions for you. If you ever have questions, always feel free to send them to me. I'll be doing my best to answer them. First question is this. I'm going to try to answer 2 or 3 questions tonight. One is, what countries do best in longevity? I'll answer that last. Second one was, how will technologies affect longevity? This is really a double-sided coin because of this. And I wrote this to the Empire Longevity membership today. If you are a member of Empire Longevity, that means you have a monthly payment membership fee. Then you see you got this sent to you on email today. If you're not, join up. And the question is how much will tech be affecting us in the future? First of all, it is undeniable it's going to be intertwined. I mean, it already is. I mean, let's be realistic. For you guys, right, using this thing, how much has that been intertwined into your life? I mean, this thing right here, how much have both of these been intertwined in your life over the last 10 years, 20 years? It's like, 20 years ago in 2002, I was using computers, but if you look at 2092, well, no. So I started in practice in 92. We were using some computers, but it was all like the dot matrix and stuff and that kind of thing. And it really was just a put information in, take information out kind of a thing. And I used it as a electronic health resource more than anything. And it was okay, but then I also look at how much we have changed since then and how integrated technology. I mean, I use 3 sets of diagnostic tools just for reading nervous systems. I mean, that's changed dramatically. So it's not as if technology is not going to be part of you. It's going to be part of you. It depends on how much you're going to do. And so, as I stated in that newsletter, I believe that there's going to be 2 humongous changes, two advances. One of them you're going to have no choice in. One is how your records are stored and delivered. Your electronic health records are stored and delivered. There's going to be much, much better communication of how that's used and how it's sent around. The accessibility to it is going to be much, much greater. Although there'll be HIPAA compliances that need to be filled out and followed. We should have you should have a credit card which has your information on, and you take it everywhere you go. And you give it to your next healthcare provider, and they pop it in there, and boom, all your records come up. So they can see what's going on. I mean, that would be healthcare. Second of all is the amount of wearables that'll be used. Although the Apple Watch is pretty cool, and Whoop is pretty cool. Those will be dwarfed in the next, 5 years. You'll be having wearables, things you'll wear in your body. It might be a watch, or might be a medallion, or even something that'll be flatter than like a port, you know what I mean, for like a chemo port. It'll be small, it'll be small, and it'll take your blood pressure, your pulse, your heart rate variability, and if possible, they'll start looking at your blood toxins, your blood levels, maybe your white blood cells, red blood cells, all these different things. And that stuff will be then transmitted. You'll have it on your phone. It'll be transmitted to any doctor you want. That's the way it should be. So those things, like those technology, that's what be happening. When we spoke to Karen Etkin, who helped to develop LEQ, LEQ is a social robot, which was developed for and by older people, especially and that kind of to keep them a companion, so that they could have someone kind of be there, and it kind of follows you around, and it LEQ, ELLI capital Q. Check it out. It's kind of wild. I mean, it's not like Alexa, it's way past that. So there's going to be that. But here's the reality, is that sooner or later, you have to eat the good food. Sooner or later, you got to do the push-up. Sooner or later, you have to go talk with somebody. Sooner or later, you have to go to bed and get great sleep. I mean, we can have as much of this as you want around, but sooner or later, you have to eat the healthy food. You have to do the exercise. You have to go out and do that 20 minutes of moderate exercise every single day. Technology is not going to afford you the ability to not do that. You still got to do that stuff. So I think that's going to be much more integrated into us. I mean, and so a lot of that is fantastic, but sooner or later, you still got to do the work. I mean, you still got to do the work. How long are people going to live in the future? COVID set us back. We were in a 25-year dramatic upswing. And COVID set Americans back to a point, the same setback as we had in the 1920s. Not back to the 1920s, but the same setback as we did. We went back by almost a year or so, maybe almost 2. For some portions of our communities, for instance, Native Americans, Alaskans, Native Alaskans, they saw dramatic drops, and the drop in life expectancy was not shared equally amongst us. If you were economically challenged, you were hit much, much harder, of course. And I say, of course, because that's the way it always fucking happens. That's that. So, but how long do I think we can live? Let me jump to another question. How long technologies? Okay, let's get into the last question. The question is let's tie this into how long are people going to live, and what countries do the best at longevity? There should be a direct correlation between, do I have that picture? There should be a direct correlation between how much money you spend and how long you live. There should be a direct correlation. And in many countries there are. Japan spends $43.60. Health expenditure per capita. Japan spends $43.60, and their life expectancy at birth is 85 years. Singapore spends $26.33, and their life expectancy is 84 years. Korea, the Republic, which is South Korea, $26.25, 83 years. Norway, spends a lot more, $8,000. Theirs is 83. Australia, 5,400, 83 years. Switzerland, 9,600, 83 years. Iceland, $6,200 per person per year, 83 years. Israel, Malta, and Sweden. Japan has a life expectancy at birth of 85 years. But of course, there are a few exceptions to the program. And the greatest exception to them all is the United States of America has the largest spending of any country included in the data set. Its average life expectancy is approximately 77 years, is lower than many other countries that spend far less per capita. The question they ask here is, what's going on in the United States? Well, here's a lot of stuff. While there are several intermingling factors at play, some researchers believe a big contributor is the country's higher infant mortality rate. One of the biggest not secrets, but one of the biggest things we do not talk about in America is the incredibly high amount of infant mortality rate we have in America. What's that mean? That means the number of children who die at birth or shortly after in America. The infant mortality rate, we're in the top 5 in the world for infant mortality. Top 5 in the world for infant mortality. We spend, as the numbers show, over $10,000 per person with an infant mortality rate that is excruciatingly high. Excruciatingly high. It's incredible. And we don't talk about it. We don't talk about it in America. It's a dirty little secret. Shh, just don't. Shh. Shh. We're doing great. We're doing great. We're doing great. Infants dying. Along with a higher relative rate of violence among young adults. Well, there's that also. Wouldn't doubt that. But the big thing is that we are Americans. Our lifestyle kills us. Us being Americans kills us. Dramatically limits our own longevity for the American dream. It's really quite incredible. What's absolutely fascinating about it is that when people from other countries come to America and say they were Japanese and they're expected to live 85 years, they adopt the American lifestyle. They die like Americans. You want to live like an American? You got to die like an American too. Quite the conundrum, isn't it? We spend more money than any other country on earth. And we're getting ripped off for it, folks. It's worth mentioning that this wasn't always the case in the night. That on the other hand, other end of the spectrum, Japan, Singapore, and South Korea have the highest life expectancies on the list, despite their relatively low spending per capita. It's worth mentioning that this wasn't always the case. In the 1960s, Japan's life expectancy was actually the lowest among the G7 countries, and South Korea's was below 60 years, making it one of the top 30 countries of improved life expectancy. I think that's pretty freaking wild. And you look at this question all the time, and you ask it, how could it possibly be that we spend so much and get so little for it? We're getting ripped off in America. Our healthcare system is a ripoff. It's a ripoff. We're spending $10,000 per person per year for every American. You. We spend over $10,000 per person, and our life expectancy is almost a decade. It's almost a decade behind Japan. Do I think we can improve upon that? Well, hell yeah. And how do we do that? Well, it's going to take a lot more than we think, but it's simple. It's not hard. It's reasonable, effective, and cost effective. First of all, everybody needs to get moving more. How is it that Japan has per capita less health spas, gyms, workout areas than we do, yet they're healthier? How is it? They're more fit. How can that possibly be? How is it that we have one of the highest obesity rates in the world? Diabetes. How can that possibly be? We can't be bullshitting ourselves anymore, thinking, man, we're looking good, doing good. We just can't. What would I do? I get this question all the time. What would you do? I would get everybody up walking again. You'll see on the Empire Longevity Insiders Facebook page, there was an article, might be down there a couple, of a woman 102 years old and says, you know, she wants to get everybody walking every day. That'd be a phenomenal start. A phenomenal start. Stop bullshitting ourselves about what we eat. Start eating stuff that's just rocket fuel. I enjoy other stuff also, but I don't make it part of my daily regimen. I just don't. Why? Because I want to be around till I'm 100. 96 is going to be, I'm going to be rocking 96. I got a lot of shit to do. I just had, and I was just okayed for an article, another article to be published. I wrote. So can we do this? Yeah, it's not going to be easy, but it can be reasonable. Is my 3 favorite words: reasonable, effective, and cost effective. What's our other choice? What's the alternative? That we're going to keep on rocketing down this pathway of spending $10, $12, $15,000 per person. Sooner or later, us being sick, we are no longer going to be able to afford it. We're going to either be able to afford a defense system or healthcare. Which one do you want? That's not un-American whatsoever. It's a reality of looking at numbers and saying, we don't do this well. And let's be honest about this. The Trump administration, their whole idea was, let's just rip apart Obamacare. Obamacare didn't do much for us, by the way. I know it gave some people more opportunity to pay copays. It didn't make them healthier. And so that was Trump's idea, was where anything but Obamacare. And Biden, I have no idea what his is. He wants to roll into more Obamacare. Okay. Question: when are we going to start getting healthier? And it's anticipated we're going to still be talking about COVID until 2025. Yeah, I know. Can we do this? Absolutely, no doubt about it. But we got to stop screwing around on this and get to work. It's not that hard. So, well, what can you do? You start making motion an everyday thing. It's much easier to not, and second of all is, if you actually want to lose weight and optimize yourself, decrease your opportunity to be in the hospital and be sick for long term, you have to get at a good weight. To get at a good weight, you stop bullshitting yourself about what you eat. It's much easier and here's a reality about diet. It's much easier to not eat the 500 calories than it is to work the 500 calories off. So you eat nutritionally dense foods. What are they? Typically plants. You get moving on a regular basis. America is going to see a change over the next decade, probably the next 5 to 8 years, in which guys like me are going to say, I don't want to retire. I want to keep on working. I want to. Why? Because I'm healthy enough to. I've got more to contribute. The market will bear that, and the market will say, come on in, man. It's going to be neat stuff. It's going to be neat stuff. It's going to be very, very interesting. The steps we can take are reasonable. They're effective and cost effective. There's no doubt about that. Guys, I'll see you next week. Always feel free to message me your questions. More than happy to answer them as best I can.